This video is prepared as an initiative of Kathmandu University to provide course material online to students. It can be used for educational purpose with due acknowledgement. I begin today's session with two statements. The method of scientific investigation is nothing but the expression of the necessary mode of working of the human mind. There is no more difference between the mental operations of a man of science and those of an ordinary person. And I think we are quite familiar with this scientist. He is Thomas Henry Huxley. Now I present a statement from another scientist. After all, everyone is curious to some degree, but not everyone is destined to be a scientist. I would argue that you need to be obsessively, passionately, almost pathologically curious. This idea is of V.S. Ramachandran. The question for you is, how can you use them? We can use these ideas by quoting, by paraphrasing, by summarizing. Common thing about these three terms is they all are the ways to incorporate others' words into your own writing. I think you guessed about today's session. Today's session, of course, is about using others' ideas in your writing. And in this session, we'll try to get answer to 5 questions. What do these terms mean? Why do we use these techniques? How do we use these techniques? When do we use these techniques? And where do we use these techniques? I begin with quoting. Quoting is using the exact words. We can use the ideas of authors who we referred in the beginning this way. First, the idea of V.S. Ramachandran. Starting with quote, to be a scientist is Ramachandran stating you need to be obsessively, passionately, almost pathologically curious. Quotation close, the year in which the writing was published and the page number in which this idea occurs. Let's go to another scientist's idea. We can quote his idea this way. Is Huxley, the year in which the text was published, argued there is no more difference between the mental operations of a man of science and those of an ordinary person. And we have put 3 dot marks here. That means we did not write the later part of the sentence. And because we have already written the year in which it is published, we are writing here the page number only. Let's go to paraphrasing. The term means writing others' ideas in our own words. Let's refer to the sentences that we had presented in the beginning. The method of scientific investigation is nothing but the expression of the necessary mode of working of human mind. Generally, what we do is we think of words that we can replace with. Using the same I highlighted method, investigation, necessary mode, and mind. What I do next is replacing the words which I identified as replaceable. Thus, my paraphrasing would appear something like this. The technique of scientific examination is nothing but the expression of the fundamental method of working of the human intellect. In this rephrased version, I replace method, investigation, necessary, mood, and finally, mind. Is it a good paraphrasing? With this question in mind, I thought of working further. In place of the method of scientific investigation, scientific examination method. And in place of is nothing but only. With the sentence, scientific examination method is only the expression of the essential approach of working of the human intellect, I was quite happier. I try to clarify what I said till now using another paragraph. After all, everyone is curious to some degree, but not everyone is destined to be a scientist. Using the same approach as before, I thought of replacing a couple of words there. I replace after all by to emphasize, to some degree by somewhat, curious by eager, but by however, destined by bound, a scientist by an expert in science. This is what we generally tend to do. I decided to work further, and the version I wrote was, after all, everyone is not destined to be a scientist, despite the fact that everyone is somewhat eager. Here, the second clause is brought in the beginning place, and the clause that is in the beginning is taken to the later section. What is done in this sense? The placement of clause is changed. Still, the question is it a better version? If you feel your version does not capture the idea of the writer, I recommend you to go for quotation. The practice of replacing words by another word results into a weaker paraphrasing. The question then is, what should be done to make paraphrasing better? I tell you the process that I follow. In the first place, I highlight words, phrases, clauses, sentences that can be rephrased. In the next step, I identify the type of words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. Once it's done, I think of the replacements. I think of possible change that I can make in the categories. Can I change verb into noun? Can I change clause into phrases? Is it possible to change active into passive? Is it possible to change simple sentences into complex sentences, or vice versa? Once the paraphrase version is ready, I tally the paraphrase version with the original one to ensure that the meaning of paraphrase version does not differ from the meaning of the original one. Now, I show you the version, the paraphrase version that I prepared after following the three-step process. The paraphrase version is, it is not all-pervasive curiosity alone, but the curiosity having obsession, passion, and pathology that makes you a scientist. So, what is done here? The first sentence is transformed into a clause. Then, the second sentence is also converted into clause, and a single sentence is formed, and I could be happy with this person. Now I take you to the third component of today's presentation, summarizing. Summarizing is putting the main ideas into your own words. The similarity between summarizing and paraphrasing lies in the fact that both of them are written in our own words. The difference, however, is in summarizing we write main ideas only, whereas in paraphrasing we write all the ideas, not only the main ideas. I try to clarify the idea of summarizing with reference to B.S. Ramachandran's The Making of a Scientist. If you have not read the text, please refer to this text when you are listening to this section. My approach to summarizing begins with taking notes. I take shorthand notes of the main ideas, and I'm sure you know where the main ideas are generally stated. Generally, one paragraph has one idea in it, and such ideas are written either as the first sentence or the last sentence of paragraph. If you read The Making of a Scientist, you find the main idea is about curiosity and its role in making anyone a scientist. That's why I wrote curiosity having obsession, passion, pathology required. After completing the first paragraph, I went to the second paragraph. I tried to find out new idea there, but I did not find. Second paragraph, I wrote repetition. Then I went to third paragraph. I found that this paragraph is about innate nature and early association. I wrote that is the main idea in the third paragraph. Then I went to the fourth paragraph. I found the fourth paragraph presenting on the role of parents in stimulating curiosity. So I wrote curiosity stimulating parents. I found the fifth paragraph about the author's interest, personal interest from early age. So I wrote personal interest from early age. Ramachandran's essay has other paragraphs as well, but because of time limitation, I decided to stop here. So the summary that I am going to show you is summary of first 5 paragraphs. The summarized version appears like this. A person can be a scientist if the person has curiosity, having obsession, passion, and pathology. Innate trait might play some role, but the contribution of early association is substantial. In addition, having parents who stimulate curiosity plays great role. The author's interest in science started from early age, feeling close to nature and reading the works of many scientists. So altogether, there are 5 sentences summarizing 5 paragraphs. And this is the condensed version of summary. If I am summarizing the 2 paragraphs that I had written in the beginning, how would I do? In this case too, I would begin with shorthand notes. The shorthand notes would capture the idea in each paragraph. I show you the shorthand notes I prepared for the paragraphs. Curiosity alone not sufficient. Obsession, passion, pathology required. This is the note for B.S. Ramachandran's paragraph. And for Huxley's paragraph, mental operations of everyone identical. With these shorthand notes, I try to develop sentence. Huxley regards scientific inquiry not as an extraordinary phenomena, whereas Ramachandran argues the process of being a scientist is distinctive. What I did here is I combined the ideas of two writers, the ideas which are contradictory in nature. To join the contradictory ideas, I use whereas. So far, we tried to get answer to two questions, what and how. Let's go to other three questions. We try to get answer to why do we quote, paraphrase or summarize. One major reason is we want to acknowledge the original writer. The second reason is to maintain academic integrity. Third reason is to show that ideas are understood. Another question is, when do we do these activities? We use these techniques when we use other than commonplace information. Now the final question. The final question is, where do we use these techniques? We use these techniques basically in two places, in answers to questions and in research papers. To sum up today's session, we tried to develop familiarity with the five dynamics of the issue: what, why, how, when, and where. I end today's session informing you about the next session. In the next session, we will discuss Matters of the Heart by Pauline Johnson. This is another text in the textbook Right to be Read.